Welcome to I Love This Thing So Fricking Much, a podcast about passion. My name is Sophie Katz, and today I am joined by Chuck Mitchell, a person who loves board games. Welcome to the show, Chuck.
Hi, Sophie. Thanks.
So here is how this works. Chuck will have 3 minutes to talk about something that he loves. This can be a person, place, thing, concept, activity, anything he wants. Our only requirement is that he loves it wholeheartedly and wants to tell us why. Are you ready, Chuck?
I am ready.
All right, got my timer here. Now, what do you love so freaking much?
What I love is board games, specifically what are called designer board games. So I started out like so many people with Monopoly and Clue and all that silly stuff when I was a kid. What I'm talking about specifically is games that are designed and the designer's name is on the box, and it is a whole gigantic subculture of people who are obsessed like me. And I own, haven't counted lately how many board games I own. But I'm looking at some of my favorites right now. Some of my favorites include Tapestry, where you're creating a civilization, Spirit Island, where you are protecting an island from evil invaders, a game called Food Chain Magnate, where you are basically running your own fast food chain, Lord of the Rings card game. There's just so much I love about games. Very briefly, I transitioned to video games when I got older and used to sit and still do sometimes and play video games by myself. I was kind of a solo video game player. And it struck me after a while as something that was still fun, but felt like a little bit like a dead end. And then in 2013, skipping all the details, I had a couple of friends and there was a YouTube channel called Tabletop with Will Wheaton. A lot of designer board game fans have a similar story to mine. And I was watching it and I said, holy cow, you can do this in a board game? You can do that in a board game? Within a year, I was going to conventions. I had collected 50 or 100 games within a couple of years, and started doing some game design on the side also. So the things that I enjoy about board games, there's 4 types of gamers often described. And one reason to game is to socialize with others. I love to socialize with others and sit across the table. Another reason to game is to explore new worlds. I absolutely love playing new games and exploring new worlds and exploring new game mechanics. There's some people who play games to achieve. Sometimes once I get to know a game and I'm trying to be really good at it, I'm sitting there playing to try to do as well as I can and try to get better at the game. And then the 4th type is the killer, the person who wants to always win and destroy his opponent. I have a Tuesday night group that I play with pretty regularly, at least before COVID. And
go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, and the Tuesday night group, perfect. And the Tuesday night group, sometimes I'll put on my killer mask for the Tuesday night group because we are very good friends and we joke around and, quote, try to destroy each other. But really, it's just lighthearted fun.
That's great. Thank you for telling us about board games today.
Absolutely.
My first thought here is you mentioned when you watched the Will Wheaton YouTube video that your reaction was, you can do that in board games. You remember, like, what exactly was it that was like, oh my God, I didn't know that board games could be like this?
Oh my gosh. One of them that comes to mind was The Resistance, which is a social deduction game. If you've played Werewolf or something like that, you would be familiar. So you're sitting across the table on teams, but you don't know who's on your team. And so it's this whole giant, adventure of trying to figure out if your friends are lying to you. Mm-hmm. There was a game called Munchkin, which I still own. It's no longer a favorite, but it was at the time like a revelation, like the fact that there was such a huge social aspect to that game too. You're trying to claw your way up through a dungeon and be the first one to the top, and everybody is basically foiling you and stopping you. And then I started watching other stuff and learned there's a game called Lords of Waterdeep where you're going around a board and picking up adventurers to complete quests, and it was like a mechanic I'd never seen, like called worker placement, where you take your person, your meeple, and drop it down, and now you get to do stuff, and now other people can't do stuff because you took their space. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. There's some examples for you.
It sounds like the infinite possibility is what's caught your attention. You're not necessarily stuck in a specific way that the game needs, that all games need to be this way. It's, you never know, depending on what it says on the card or on the board, this is what you get to do.
It's funny you should say that, yeah, because I get teased a lot by my friends because I'm the guy who always wants to play a new game. I want to have a new experience. And sometimes my friends will say, can we play that game again that we loved so much? And I say, no, we have to play some. No, you could ask your parents about that experience. No, I want to play something new. I'm always wanting to have a new experience.
Can you talk a little more about, you used the word subculture early on, and then you mentioned going to conventions. Could you talk a little more about the community aspect of board games?
Oh my Lord. Well, I'm going to put COVID aside and pretend that someday we won't be in this situation. But there are board game conventions going on all across the country, local and national conventions all throughout the year. So I've been making a yearly trek to a convention in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio. And just absolutely look forward to it every year to try out new games. I mean, they take over the convention center, so you get to try out new games. You get to meet old friends that you make just like anyone would in a convention setting. I went to a convention in Grand Rapids, and I'm still in touch with friends I made there. And then to top it all off, I went on a board game cruise twice. This was through a YouTube channel called The Dice Tower. So they actually grabbed part of the passengers for a ship, and so we were like 600 of the 2,500 passengers, and we had our own dedicated space. And the company, the Dice Tower, brought 1,000 board games on the ship, which is crazy. Wow. And we sat and played board games on a cruise ship for 5 days. It's basically insanely wonderful. I can't describe it.
That does sound really cool. So I assume that these conventions and on this cruise ship probably as well, there's not only places where you could play the games, probably places you could buy the games. Were there panels about the games?
Yeah, absolutely. All that. Panels on playing the games, on learning the games, on designing your own games, on the minutia of some specific game that has a huge fan base. Anything and everything, of course.
Have you ever tried to design your own game?
Yeah, the first game I designed was when I was a teenager, and I took Monopoly and turned it into a sports game where you bought baseball teams and then played other teams when you landed on their space. Huh. And then in the last few years, I've been working on various designs. I'm trying to do a baseball game where you're stepping back and managing a team and getting through some, you're not actually playing baseball games. You're just comparing numbers to play.
Mm-hmm. Sounds a bit like fantasy football.
Play a game. Yeah, a little bit. So yes, I am working on some game designs right now, yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yes, it's something I'm keeping in mind in my own game design. You don't want to make your game so complex that you would need a week to make a decision.
That's good. It's good. It sounds like you're using your experience with what you like and don't like about these games to think about making your own games.
I am trying.
Chuck, thank you so much for telling us about something you love today.
You're welcome. This was fun.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. Don't forget to use the hashtag #LoveThisThingCast to tell us about the things you love. I Love This Thing So Fricking Much is a production of Through the Window Media. This episode was directed by Sophie A. Katz and edited by Melissa Block. You can find us at Through the Window on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Tumblr. That is THROU, the window, at all those social media sites. Be good to yourself, be kind to each other, and you'll hear from us again soon.